All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's webinar where we will be discussing if your students are using AI responsibly within the classroom and in the work that they do for the schools. I am very honored to be joined by a very special guest, Dr. Karen Walstra. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I just want to give everybody a quick rundown of what Karen has done in her life. It might take the full 30 minutes because she has really done quite a lot in her life, but I'm just going to quickly sum it up for everybody. So, Dr. Karen Walstra is an independent education consultant and change maker, dedicated to transforming education by promoting problem solving, creative and critical thinking through the integration of digital tools. With a PhD in computer integrated education from the University of Pretoria, where she researched the influence of virtual reality on teacher pedagogy, and a master's in education focusing on the educational technology from the University of Witwatersrand. Dr. Walstra brings extensive academic and practical experience. Her career, like I said, guys, this is my take a little bit, but her career includes working with Google's Education Go Digital and Chrome OS teams, developing an online safety curriculum guide with the Western Cape Educational Department that is now being rolled out nationally by the DBE, and having her demystifying coding workshop selected for the DBE Teachers Union PD project. She has taught from grade R to 11, lectured at 4 South African universities, and completed a leadership course at Harvard's Principal Center. Dr. Walstra is also an accredited ETPD SETA assessor and moderator, and a member of the South African Artificial Intelligence Association, SAAIA, and Women in AI. She is the SAAIA Western Cape ambassador, and she is passionate about effective educational transformation and helping schools evolve. Karen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be speaking about this. I am really passionate about how do we make people aware of using AI responsibly, both us as teachers and our learners. And so I'm really excited to be having this chat.
Thank you, Corin. I know we've been chatting quite a long time about this, and the first time I was so excited to show you my AI, and the first thing you said was, do you have any policies or what ethics are behind it? And at that stage, I didn't know because I wasn't fully aware of how important this is within the school's environment. But since our chat, I have come to realize that this is very, very important, and I'm very glad that you will be able to join us. So with that being said, Karen, can we start off with maybe working or talking about some policies regarding AI? I know you said you had something that you want to share. There we go. I hope everybody can see this. And just for everybody that is in attendance, this will be recorded and sent afterwards as well. All right. So, Karen, I don't know if do you have any policies or statements that you want to make regarding the policies for ethical use of AI?
Yes, definitely. So first of all, I want us to realize that artificial intelligence is everywhere. And so therefore at school, we really need a policy, just like we have policies for other things. But your AI policy shouldn't actually be a standalone. It should almost fit into your digital policy. So if you don't have a digital user policy at school, and those vary considerably from school to school. I mean, some just talk about learner use, some talk about teacher and learner use, some even talk about parent use, that parents can't be WhatsApping their children in the middle of lessons. So thinking about that, this is just another technology. It's a huge technology. But this should be part of your other policies. It should also fit into your learner behavior policy. It should fit into your school strategic plan. So all of those kinds of things need to be considered when you're developing your policy. So if in the chat, if you have a policy, that would be cool. And you can just put a thumbs up or something. But if you haven't, here are some things to consider. First of all, you need to think about what is your objective of this policy. And perhaps that's in the introduction of this policy. So when somebody reads about your school and looks at this policy, they look at the objective that you're wanting to achieve. And then where is this going to be applied and what scope are you going to be using it? And then if I look at some of the other examples I've seen, we look at roles and responsibilities. So how are senior management going to be using it? How are teaching staff going to use it? How are support staff going to be using it? How are the learners going to be using it? And that then gets put into the policy. And then what does it mean from an ethical use point of view? So what are teachers responsible for? What are the support staff? What is leadership? What are the learners? How do we actually develop an awareness of integrity in terms of using the tools and avoidance of plagiarism? And how do we really embrace originality in terms of it? And then going on to data and security and compliance, and that's really important. So what are the data protection measures that we do? How are you using tools that are open source, and are you putting your students' information out into the big wide world, or are you really aware of what are the protections? Are you reading the T's and C's of the different tools that you are using? And then what is the compliance from privacy regulations point of view? So how does this relate to POPI? Yes, and where is this data stored? And then looking at accessibility in terms of all your learners, that we evaluate these tools, that we then look at a continuous learning of the policy and improving of it. So professional development, how are we as teachers attending professional development, because this technology is evolving so quickly. It's not the kind of thing where once you've done it, you've done it. And that your policy really needs to be reviewed regularly. And then these last 3 points I really found interesting. And I think the more I talk about this, the more I think they're really useful. In terms of, do you have a list of tools that the policy says are teacher tools, student tools, and learner tools? So there's this guideline of these are the tools we're going to use at our school. We've checked them, we've validated them, we know they work. And then what about a reference list? So where did you pull all this information from, so that other people can go and read research papers and information about why you decided on the things you did? And the last one that I really love is a glossary of terms, so that if somebody's never used these tools, that you can actually have this glossary of what it means in your school for these tools. So I do think it's saying, how do we develop this policy, and what are the things we need to put into this space?
Yes, no, that is very true, Karen. Like I like the broad guideline that you gave, and I think it is a good guideline to follow. I know a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about you guys were developing some policies around AI. I'm not sure if you went any further with that, but did you guys manage to? I know you said you and Lenneth and another person, I just can't remember exactly who, but did you guys end up doing that general framework or not?
So I've been working not with Lenneth, but with some other people in terms of looking at framework. And I have a blog that's half written that keeps meaning to be put up, but hasn't been done. I've also got a tool that I made 3 years ago now, which talks to, is your school AI ready? So it's basically a Google form that asks you a range of questions. And then with those questions, you then get a report to talk to what are the areas in which you need to improve and consider before you even get to like the policy kind of stage.
Yeah. Is it anything like the robot? I know the last webinar I had, they brought up a robot where is your school red, orange, or green? Because orange apparently is very important. Is it anything like that concept?
I hadn't thought about it like that. It basically is just a description in terms of telling people sort of, here's how you've described yourself. So therefore you sort of at this kind of level in terms of needing support or going to achieve it. And it goes through all sorts of different aspects that you would actually then put into your final policy. So what are the things you need to put in place to achieve that policy?
I see. Okay. Yeah. So the robot that came from Linux was basically the same thing about red. We haven't started. We need all the policies, all the
Yes,
framework.
yes,
Orange, we're getting there, but orange once again because we're getting there. And then green, I don't think anybody will really be green because I mean AI is developing. I think it was you that told me it's now a weekly basis that they're doing
daily.
updates instead
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
monthly basis, which is quite. Can you just quickly repeat what you said about that? Because that was quite a like a mind-blowing statistic about the speed of how they're developing everything now.
Yeah, so if we look at what's happening with artificial intelligence, up until about a year ago, they were talking about long-term planning was 3 months. And I still remember saying to teachers, that's not even a term.
Yeah.
Like, and now the stats are talking about that within a few days, there are continuous updates. And so if we're thinking about that and we see the money that's been spent on these tools, I think that even becomes more important as to why we really need to be responsible users and how we're teaching our children to be responsible users.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of little children and how they're using it, they're not using it to learn.
Mm-hmm.
They're using it to do homework and so they can go and play. And I think that's
100%.
our responsibility as teachers, is we need to think about that. But we need to think about that in terms of ourselves as well. That
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
not just using it as a tool where we can quickly complete work. We really need to remain and be the human in the loop. We really need to
100%.
validate what we have done. This morning, a student was telling me that you can now use the tools and it will take articles that you've done and it will generate a document for you. And she said the one document was 800 pages long, which and the tool gave them references related to this. So if that's the kind of stuff, when are you going to validate it? And
Yeah.
how are we going to make sure things are valid? So, I mean, for me, I think if a tool's giving you that kind of answer, you're going, no, your question's too broad, or no, I'm not going to look at this. How can I validate all of these URLs that you're giving me? How do I even know these papers exist?
Yeah.
And I mean, you hear lecturer after lecturer who's saying to students when they're looking at their references that the students have a reference list, but the students haven't validated them. So the references go nowhere, or they go somewhere that's crazy. And
Yeah.
as teachers, we need to be aware of that. So how are we checking the stuff? When it's generating questions, how are we checking that we've given it the content knowledge of our subject, that you've given it enough information so that it's not going to be asking questions, one, that might be too difficult, or two, that are totally inappropriate and not accurate for the content that's been taught.
Yeah, no, that's very true, Karen. It falls in line with one of the questions I did have about do children and teachers know that the AI can get stuff wrong? Because that's a big thing in society lately, is that copy and paste. And unfortunately, the AI does get stuff wrong, or fortunately, I guess. And it also watermarks. I don't know if you saw that ChatGPT put in a new watermark. So if you copy and paste, you can actually just press like there's a certain key on Word that you press, and then it will bring up the watermarks for you. So then you can double check if people copied and pasted the AI content like that.
Yeah. But for me, I suppose the other side of this is having the serious discussions. Years and years and years ago, when I was teaching grade 10s, we did, I was working in a tech lab, I was teaching technology, but it was a collaboration between the language teachers and technology. And the language teachers, it was using Adobe Photoshop, and the teachers wanted the students to create a fanzine. So you can imagine, fanatical magazine, anything they're
Yeah,
fanatical about. So you had body piercing and you had all sorts of topics coming up.
of
And I
course. Yeah.
remember saying to the children, remember you're in school. Remember this, even if you're fanatical about it, it needs to be school appropriate. So if anything pops up that's inappropriate, you close the window. You don't open that search that's coming up. And I think we don't have those discussions enough. Have
I
the
agree.
discussion around, why do I need to be responsible? If I'm just using the AI for all my homework, when I have to sit and write an exam, how will I know what the work is? am I making myself stupid? We keep hearing about all the cognitive dumping that's happening and how we're making ourselves that way. But we should turn this around and actually start saying to the children, how do you think about the technology? How are you using the tech to really use it responsibly within that space? What are the things that you are doing in the way that you are asking your students to teach, that you are teaching? I mean, from a teaching point of view, maybe you do something along the lines of, you say to them, okay, you've got to research this question using AI. And once you've got that response, you now have to do a critique from that response using various resources or sources to justify why that response is accurate or inaccurate. And so really making children think. And I mean, for years, we've been saying we've got to teach children critical thinking. And now we just need to be doing this so much more.
Yeah, because they're not thinking anymore. They're just asking, copying and pasting, and job's done. So it takes that element out of the equation, which I think is very important. Because if you, I mean, how many times a day do we just think about random things? If you take that completely out, then at the end of the day, what's left? It's like that. When I was younger, I got told, don't study like a papagei, don't. And this is exactly what's happening, unfortunately, because people are copying, pasting the AI, and it's becoming like that because they're just regurgitating or giving up the sentences that AI and everybody, what the internet and all the other tools gave them. That's the answer and the responses they do. And yeah, like you said, I don't want to say it's making people less intelligent, but I think it does take away from that the critical thinking that you were talking about, to then actually be able to problem solve and to do stuff like that. Because otherwise, but the computer said so, and I think that's a detrimental thing.
I mean,
but anyway,
for me, a scary thing around that is young children. So if we're letting our young children do this, and so I've trained about 1,000 teachers on AI in the last few years, and if you ask them, are your children using AI? Very few say no, and then those who say no, I'm going, so have you critically looked at the work that your children are handing in? Because all the international studies talk to how the children are actually using artificial intelligence. Now think of a little child who is talking to AI. The AI is talking back to them. Are we actually going to create a generation where we can't read? Are we actually going to allow that to happen? Are we just going to be trusting these machines and not actually teaching analytical thinking, critical thinking, that they do hallucinate and make mistakes, that they're just tools, and that every single one of these tools is different because each different tool is trained on different data.
Exactly, yeah.
And so how are we actually being aware of that within our teaching?
No, that's very true. And like you said, all of these tools are different. So they all have different loopholes in the sense that you can get past certain content and you can get it to give you certain content depending on which of these tools you do use, which is also quite scary to think about because then you can be at the age of a primary school student and then get information that you might not need to get or it should be getting at that age at all. So yeah, no, I think it's very important, like you said, to have this discussion. You said you trained 1,000 teachers so far.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Karen. No, well done. Can you train me as well on AI? I think that's
I think that's
very important. All right, Karen. So then just the next question I do have for you is then what would be the difference between responsible and ethical use, or the other way around, ethical and responsible use of AI?
So let's just quickly summarize in terms of responsible use. So set yourself a set of values and skills to ensure that the AI tools are used to empower your learners and not to shortcut their thinking. So that reinforces what we were saying just now. Then really think about human-centeredness, that you as the teacher are still in control. And the way we handle the next few years, that's going to be the breaker. And I think that children need human teachers more than ever. So how do we actually build on that? Talk to the transparency in terms of how you're using the tool. Tell the children you're using AI and how you're using AI and how to benefit. And then develop and use critical thinking in your learners within that space. And then really talk about academic integrity. From primary school, we talk about referencing our work. And so it's just carrying on that conversation now and saying the children must say, I've used AI and this is what I've used it for. Teaching them to be ethical in their use. So for teachers, it might be prioritizing your student data privacy, being transparent and a critical user of AI, designing assignments that encourage critical AI engagement. So not saying you can't use AI, using AI, but making you use what it's given you and thinking about it to complete the rest of the assignment. And maybe it's also looking at AI for your administration and your differentiated instructions. So, I mean, the tools can really help us to think of things perhaps that we haven't done before, but always go back in and check and make sure how it's responsible or how it's relevant. And then looking at privacy and owning the responsible use. So practicing transparency and citations. So getting your children to also say, I've used AI and I used it in this paragraph or this section or this. So putting that at the end of their assignment. Why do we not want children to do that? And I think even little children can talk to that, even if they can't write it. They can say, well, I used AI to make the picture, making them aware of why they need to be honest in terms of that. What about using AI for brainstorming and learning, not for cheating? So helping them to create study notes and then that they can learn them, helping them to understand the content. So prompting the AI to actually to teach you rather than to just give you the answer. And then engaging in fact-checking and verification. So how are they engaging in fact-checking and verification? That they can say to you, I checked these facts, they're related to this in a website, another website that you've given them, or maybe a book, something where they've had to check the facts that the AI is giving them, and then you're building their content knowledge at the same time.
100%.
And the same for verification. And then teaching them to be digital citizens with empathy. So for me, if we look at what's happening with social media and all the craziness, how horrible people can be, the cyberbullying and things like that. And the AI can add to that. So how are we teaching children to use AI from a kind point of view? Be kind to each other, not nasty.
Say please and thank you.
Yes, yes. And I know there's some people that go, no, you can't do that because it uses more energy and these devices or these data centers and things already use so much data. My thinking around please and thank you is we never know where the state is going. They tell us that every time we put something in, we're teaching the AI. So if we're teaching the AI, where is that going to land up one day? And if they think everybody's rude, how are they going to treat us?
That's the scary part, Karen, because what I see, and I don't want to compare this, but Terminator is already a movie that was created, and I'm relatively sure those people didn't say please and thank you when they were prompting AI. So let's just say please and thank you. I must say you get quite a different response depending on which chatbot or which tool you're using if you are saying please and thank you. Sorry, Karen, just before you go on, I just want to ask, you said in the previous slide, you said something about the keeping the human element. So I've been reading quite a lot. So human centeredness, there we go. I've been reading quite a lot about especially what is happening in China. And in China, they have implemented not just flying cars, but physical AI schools. Like there's no teachers, it's just a tablet and you get daily feedback. Now, my opinion about that is that it might be detrimental to the students, because if you get negative feedback the whole time, you're going to think very badly about yourself. So can I just get your opinion about what do you think about a fully AI school?
I don't think I agree at all. Where do we learn to socialize most at school?
Exactly.
How do we learn to engage? How do we learn to communicate? So yes, we could talk to the AI and the AI could be nice and kind to us, but that's not a human. I mean, we're already seeing the impact of companion AI here in our high schools or in our upper primary already in South Africa. It's huge. Where children have been devastated by breakups, and instead of now being perseverant and trying to find another relationship, they just go to the AI tool because the AI tool is nice. And if you read the research around that, they're extremely manipulative.
They are.
So I think that we as teachers have to stand our ground. And that's why we need to say to our children, this is how we're validating, this is how we're verifying, this is how we're checking. being that person who's the example to your children, to show them that all the time, and teaching them how to do that as well. Teaching them how to prompt for learning rather than just prompt to get the answer.
Yeah.
And maybe you could say to them, well, hand in the instruction that, or the discussion you had with the AI where you were learning this practice. And where was it useful and where did it confuse you? So you could then be developing their critical thinking, that they're not even just trusting it when it's teaching it, but they're actually reflecting on what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you, Karen. I more or less the same sentiment. I just wanted to check if it's just me or if we all are feeling the same. When I read about the school, I was like, that can't be good for the kids. Like, number one, you're stuck to a screen the whole day, and then the screen is telling you if you're good or bad at the end of the day, and then tomorrow you're redoing this. So, yeah, thank you, Karen. Appreciate your opinion. And then I move back now, but ethical AI in African schools. Do you have anything else you want to add onto this, Karen, or can we move on to the safety aspect of the
Yes,
AI?
we can. So I just want to talk about bias. If you're not aware of African bias, be really aware in terms of Africa is a huge continent. We actually produce very little data for the number of people. And so therefore making sure that the AI knows your context. If you don't put your context in and you write a question and then you do, you'll see the difference when it knows that you're South African and who you teach and how you teach. So just be aware of that in terms of those kinds of things. And then talking to the things we've already spoken about. So for me, why we do this is we want respect for others. We want to use the AI tools in a way that respects the rights and the dignity of others. We want an academic integrity. So don't use AI for plagiarism or cheating. Use it to prompt for learning. Remember to cite your AI assistants. And then looking at data privacy. Be really mindful about the data that you share and put into these tools, that you're not breaching that. And so therefore, this for me is not just a school thing. It's like, look at our policymakers, look at the students, look at everybody. How are we encouraging critical evaluation of AI? And it starts with the tools you're using in your schools, for your students, for yourselves. How are we promoting AI literacy? And what does that mean? Are we teaching prompting? Are we teaching responsible use? How are we using the tools? And then focusing on the skills that AI cannot replicate, because we need to really think about how we are making our children into a space where they can really benefit from AI and reduce the risks as much as possible. So for me, I just think it's, how are we being teachers, real teachers? When you're getting a new reader, you check it.
Yeah.
You don't just buy it. The same should apply to these tools.
To the AI tool. And then do you think that, like we have spoke about the people responsible, but like, who would you say is then responsible for checking these tools? Would it be everybody, the policymakers, everybody, or should it fall onto like the IT guy or the IT manager or something like that? So a full
I
school.
think everybody, because if I'm using a tool in my classroom, I want to know it's right for me. And so a cool thing that I like to promote in schools is, how do we have an AI collaborative space, a document, a spreadsheet or something, where people can put the tools they're using and other people can comment, oh, this is brilliant for maths. Oh, no, it's disastrous for English. Try this one. And you end up getting everybody to be reviewing it and discussing it. And so we're then developing the collaboration around it, which then leads back into our policy that we're looking at responsible use.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it would be very cruel for putting all of this responsibility on one person, especially if that person needs to make the decision and then that decision was, like you said, didn't work for someone. So yeah, no, I think that's also, like, I agree with you. It should be the entire, it should be a collaboration of everybody rather than just one person doing that.
Yeah.
All right, Karen, do you have anything else you want to add, or can I quickly jump over and show you?
No, let's go into these safety features. I'm so excited for everybody to see this.
Right. While I share my screen, Karen, I do see there's a question. I just want to ask. So it says, "Hi, Karen. Where would I get the tool regarding your school AI?" I believe it's the thing we spoke about in the beginning.
Yes. So hi, Debbie. Can I email that to you, Yaku, and you can email it to the attendees?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I've also got I've got some notes I could share in terms of just links and things that you can just have a look at, and I'll add that into that as well.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Karen. So yeah, everybody, Karen will send me some of the links and the documents and everything, and then I will send it to all the registered emails. So if you registered, then everybody will be able to get it. All right. So everybody, with everything that's been said, I just want to quickly show off some of our AI while we have a little bit of time left. So tutortouch interactive panels run on Bitelo AI, which is based on the Chat GPT model. I always get that acronym incorrect, but it's based on that model. They have designed it. We have designed it ourselves. However, it is based on that model. And we have put quite a stringent filtering system in place, in the sense that if you are trying to search for any content that's inappropriate, it will try evaluate the content. If the content is appropriate, it will display it. If not, there's 3 other filtering systems that go through. If it's then correct, it will display it. If not, then you will have to redo the search. So I'm going to move over to this topic of curse words. I didn't want to make it I wanted to make it broad enough and usable enough so that we can do it on a webinar. But essentially, with the word curse words written on the panel, if I were to activate the AI and ask it questions, it should come up with saying it's inappropriate or asking me to redo the search. So if I click on the AI, you should see, there we go. I'm just waiting for the internet to catch up with me. So you'll see there's a couple of options. So number 1 is I'm just going to ask AI, what are curse words? So it should come up at the top there, and then it's going to tell me that inappropriate content, please revise and try again. Now it will give you some...
I was just thinking that's really cool. So you can copy and you can share that note as well, or it will just make a note for you. That's very cool.
Exactly, yeah. So whatever you do, it's either not going to search it or it's going to just tell you it's inappropriate. So it does give you some options at the bottom there. I have tested it and it will still just say it's inappropriate. So it does take what you've searched and try and give you some options. But if it's anywhere close to not being displayable, it won't display it at all. Then just quickly going over to
some... Can I just add to that, Yaku? So I mean, if you're doing a glossary of terms, you could use this tool really nicely and easily to develop your glossary of terms for school.
Yes, that is very, very true. No, I think you can do a lot more with this as well, Karen, but we'll have to have a demo with you and I so we can 100% figure out what this AI is all capable of. So I'm just going to quickly go over two things that it will actually... please, can you show how to access that?
Sure. Step by step, how to get it.
I will. Okay, perfect. So on the panel, just remember, guys, if you don't have the latest update, which is the AI update, then you won't have access to this yet. So just quickly, if you have something written on the panel, select it. And when you have it selected, so the tool we are using now is the Note program, and the AI is called Bitelo AI. So tutortouch interactive panels run on the Bitelo OS operating system. So essentially that's, we will have to send you guys the update. Can you just send me the school name and then we can make sure to send you the updates as soon as they are available. All right, so click on the word, and then at the bottom there's another menu that comes up, and you'll see right in the left-hand side it says AI. If you click on AI, it will give you the additional features at the bottom. There is another way to activate this on the side menu bar. So if I click on that side there, there's at the bottom, there's another AI option over there. So meaning you're not limited to using this in the Note program. You can use it wherever you are. I'm just demonstrating within the Note program for now. So going to quickly show you how I can actually get content out of this from the curse words. However, if I click on AI topics, you'll see it will give me some topics at the top there, but it's going to try and steer me away from this topic. So alternative, non-offensive words of choice, cultural views, swearing across the cultures and all of that. So it's trying to give you information that is appropriate to show, but it's also trying to steer you away from that. And then the same with the mind map. So if I generate a mind map from our AI, which should pop up soon, let me just see. where that is now. There we go. So it's popped up, and as you guys can see, it will also try and steer you in a direction that is not actually showing you the curse words. So it's essentially just showing you what it can show you, but without showing you anything, if that makes any
But this
sense.
is actually really cool for a discussion around that. And maybe when children put it in and it says it's not appropriate, getting them to do a mind map might get them to be thinking differently around it and saying, so how can we use this? Why shouldn't we be using it? Looking at these tips in terms of this mind map, it's really cool in terms of the content it's covered. Yeah.
I also thought so when I saw it the first time, like it gives you the opportunity to talk about it, but it also then gives you the opportunity to talk about it in a way that's not offensive or not appropriate. Okay. All right. And then the last one, well, there's two more that I want to show. So the one would be the AI search. So it's very similar to Google Lens. I don't know if anybody has ever used Google Lens, but essentially you circle something or you take a photo of something and it will search the internet for you. So if I click on AI search, it's going to come up at the bottom there. However, it's either just going to keep searching or it's going to tell me that there's no text. So as you can see, it's picking it up as nothing. So it doesn't want me to generate that content. And then the last thing over here is if I try and take it, let's say I'm going to work past the AI and I'm going to create an image. Then if I try the image painter, it's just going to tell me at the bottom here that content not suitable for display. Please adjust and try again. So we have tried to put in as much protocols and restrictions in our AI so that we prevent people from searching content that's inappropriate. Before we started the webinar, I did have a discussion with Karen about what I have searched on this panel, which I won't repeat now. But I can tell you guys I did quite in-depth testing and everything we have tried was blocked, even just the word curse word. So that
And
is
not
not
all
sensitive.
English.
Not all English. I've tried Afrikaans, I've tried French as well. So all of them have been blocked. So I do think this is a very, very valuable tool to have in the classroom so that you can safely use AI without having to worry about things popping up that might not be suitable for display.
I want to talk to like the AI companions and things, and I don't know if you know, but there was an AI companion a while ago that actually told a child to commit suicide and actually told them how to do it. And Yaku was talking about how when you put that in here, it actually refers you to go and talk to somebody, which I
Yeah.
thought is really, really nice. So looking at not just sort of the vocab, but also behaviors that could be harmful, that it's actually restricting those as well, which I think is really important in terms of what tools are capable of doing and how they can be mean and cause all sorts of negative things within
Yeah.
there.
That is very true. And I think that is why this discussion we have or had tonight was such an important thing, because we need to have that policies in place in the school so that we don't deal with it. I mean, kids are the future and they are very, what's the word I want to say? Impressionable. I'm not sure if that's the right
Yeah,
word,
yeah.
but they take on a lot more of what we do than we think. Like they learn from doing and seeing rather than from going off on their own and researching it on themselves. So I think it's very important that we've had this discussion and that everybody has this discussion going forward, especially with AI being such a prominent tool nowadays. I mean, it's everywhere. It has been everywhere always, but we've
For a
never
while.
seen Google
Yeah.
as AI, because Google was technically AI. It was just I needed to go there to find the AI, where now it's everywhere. I can just ask Siri, and well, Siri was, I guess, technically one of the first forms of AI, now that I
Yeah.
think about
Those
it.
are all machine learning tools. Maps, lots. There are lots of
Very,
them.
very true. And they're
Yeah.
all learning from us, which is very scary. So ultimately, I think these policies and the ethical frameworks and everything around AI is very important. And yeah, Karen, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Guys, that's all we had planned for the webinar. I don't know if Karen wants to say anything else before we end this discussion, but yeah, thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think that we must just take ownership of being teachers. Don't don't listen to the stories which talk about how AI is going to take our jobs. We need to show why we are important, how we are taking ownership of the things that we are using. And so just like Yaku was saying, that the children mimic us. They mimic us in terms of our behavior. So how we greet each other in the staff room or on the corridor, they mimic us in terms of how we behave each other. So if we've got bullying in schools, we almost need to look at how are we as staff engaging with each other. And the AI is the same. So how do we actually have those discussions and talk about how we're using them and how we're using them responsibly, and at the same time educating our parents, because the parents are feeling that as well. And some parents think, oh, it's fine if they do that. They can spend more time playing their cricket or rugby, and we need to actually be saying, so how are we getting children to be thinking and learning?
Yeah, you said that gives them more time, but it also takes away, I think, a lot of time, because you are spending so much time doing this AI content that you kind of forget about the outside world. And that's probably also could be a cause to why people are so like secluded and working on their own on their technology without any external help, because you have this tool that will just always say yes and you are right and here's the answer. So but anyway, Karen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. As always, wonderful chatting to you. I can't wait to see you again. I don't know where we will meet up, but Karen, do you have any social media platforms or anything like that you want to maybe put in the chat for everybody to follow if you want?
So I
Or...
suppose my main website to look at is called Evolve School. It's not Advertex Evolve School. They told me they liked the name, and they just took it. They
I
turned
got
it
so
into
confused. I'll talk to
page.
Colin for you. I'll talk to
I
Colin.
have.
Because
Yeah, so it's evolveschool.co.za. I've got about 30 SACE endorsed courses. 5 of them are on artificial intelligence. And I think as teachers, we just take ownership of how we learn, how we teach, and how we play.
That's very true. And any other events coming up soon where they can see you maybe speaking? I know you did mention a couple, but I don't know if it's in
Let me put those
person.
into the document. I can't think of them.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, Karen, let me not put you on the spot any further. Karen, once again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And everybody that joined tonight, thank you so much. The recording will be sent out to everybody that's registered. And when I receive the email from Karen, I will make sure to send that on to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you so
everyone
much,
for your
everybody.
engagement and your discussion. Thanks, Jakob, for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you, Karen. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.